Hey, everybody. It's your best friend, Elijah Brubaker. Um, I'm here to talk with you guys about papercutter number three. Um, I hope the audio on this is okay because I've got kind of a janky setup right now. Uh, but this is in conjunction with a Patreon. Patreon's like assholes, everyone's got one. And over there, I am running comics about these characters, Hubert and Ray, and the funny shenanigans that they get into and the crazy characters that they meet along the way. Um, and I figured since I've been drawing these guys for so long, I've been drawing them for almost 15 years now. Almost none of it has been published, by the way. This is like I just draw pages and throw them in the corner and hope for the best. Um, so eventually, they're probably all going to be up on the Patreon. So go over there and kick in a buck. But I wanted to go back and look at the first appearance of the characters and talk about where they came from a little bit. Um, I don't have a whole lot of insight. They're just dumb. They're just dumb little cartoon characters. It's not a mystery where they came from. But anyway, I was at some comic show in 2005, I believe. This came out in 2006, so pretty sure it was the year before. Um, I was at a comic show and ran into Greg Means, who is awesome cartoonist and turns out a great editor of a great anthology. I don't think the first issue had come out yet. He was just seeing how many people he could get on board for the first however many issues, and he asked if I wanted to contribute. I said yes because I'm always looking for work or reasons, some excuse to draw. And he's the constraints of the book were don't do anything don't do anything too gross, you know. But I could pretty much do whatever I wanted. He said, give me a story that's around 4 to 20 pages. So there's a lot of leeway in this this project. Um, and since I'm a cartoonist with not the best self-esteem, let's say, I figured what I'm going to lack in quality, I will make up for in quantity. He said up to 20 pages, so I'm going to give this guy 20 pages. But we'll get to why it is a 21-page comic. Um, so this is the first appearance of these guys. Um, Hubert looks a little different now. I don't draw him too drastically different, but the character has gained a lot of weight. His ears aren't so long and club-like. I don't even know I don't like. I was calling him like a little bunny rabbit guy, but he's just a dude with big club ears and a weird donut mouth. Anyway, his girlfriend wakes him up. It's clear she's the one paying all the rent and buying all the food, and she says don't drink all the beer, and he calls her a bitch because he's an awesome guy. Complains about his life a little bit, looks out the window. Some of these drawings I kind of like. There are a couple of drawings in here that I'm actually not super embarrassed by, which is a unique thing. I can't think of anything else that I've drawn around this time that I don't completely cringe at. There's still plenty of bad drawings in here. Don't get me wrong, but there's a couple of panels. There's a couple of panels I like. That panel that I kind of like. It's unfortunate because for every panel like this, you end up getting like terrible drawings like this one. Fuck that drawing, man. Ugh. Anyway, Hubert goes next door to his friend's house. This is Ray. Ray is based loosely off of a friend of mine named Ray. He was my neighbor, and we did have a sort of relationship like this where it was kind of a Kramer from Seinfeld sort of thing where we just walk into each other's place. So Ray's a writer. There's a glass of wine there, so you know he's a writer. Um, and Ray is having problems with his writing. Um, Real kind of sophomoric bullshit about, how he doesn't know how to find the middle ground between writing commercial stuff and being an artist, man, that sort of thing. But Hubert says like a seed inside of a fruit, though, right? And Ray does a literal double take. This is one of those panels that I like. I think I stole this idea of the two head thing from an Archie comic. I don't think I've drawn anything like this before or since, but I kind of like that. Um, Hubert says the seed inside of a fruit. Nature's created nice, sweet, attractive fruit, so animals will eat them. And the whole idea is that there's a nice little fruit that an animal eats, but there's an indigestible seed, and the animal will carry the seeds, further down the road and deposit the seeds so trees can grow and spread. I don't know, and that's a metaphor for writing, man. I don't know why I'm explaining this. It's not hard to get. But he says, who cares if it's covered in shit? They go for a walk around in the rain. I'm fat and lazy. I cheat on her. I do any drug I'm offered. I drink like a fish. Have you considered, not doing that stuff? Well, yeah, I've considered it. But I'm not a quitter. Ha 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 ha. I don't even know if I thought that joke was funny at the time. Like, the whole idea is that he's laughing his ass off at this stupid joke, and Ray's like, uh-huh, okay. There's also a reference to being John Malkovich. Some guy just drives by and says, hey, Malkovich, think fast, throws a can on his head. Just like in the movie, which I don't really tell jokes like this anymore. Not that you can consider this really a joke, but I don't really I try not to just make references to a thing that I saw once and hope that you find it funny. What am I talking about? Of course I still do shit like that. They walk around the rain. Again, I kind of like that panel, but it kind of goes back to another Sophie and Hubert having a little bit of an argument. I was hesitant to call her that because I can't remember. I think I might have changed her name. She shows up again in later stories, and I think I might have accidentally changed her name to Phoebe. So in this story, she's Sophie. In other stories, she's Phoebe. I should probably go back and get that all straightened out um, uh, before anyone else reads this shit, so everyone can tell that it's supposed to be the same character. Anyway, she tells him to get his act together, or he's going to have to leave, which is like a perfectly reasonable thing to tell your boyfriend, who's apparently doing every drug in town and cheating on her and being just a raging asshole. They go to the park. Hubert and Ray go to the park. They play chess. Hubert complains about his life, and Ray's like, oh shit, dog, what are you going to do? He says, I got some pills. You want one? He says, yeah, I want two. What are they? Again, some of these things are unfortunately pretty autobiographical. There have been plenty of points in my life where I'll take whatever random pills that you offer me or whatever. This part of the story is sort of, again, it's pretty closely autobiographical. There was a point where my pal Ray and I we were doing LSD and walking around town, and we were just coming down as the sun was coming up, and it was like one of those the lights reflecting off the water, and we're sitting at the rocks and everything. We didn't end up tumbling down into a ravine or anything, and Ray didn't have to pour water out of his face. But we were like, oh man, it's this awesome experience because anything that happens to you on LSD is like this magical, earth-shattering religious experience. And we ended up seeing a dead dog, And it's like, yeah, man, that's the most beautiful dead dog I've ever seen. So they go to a donut shop. Donuts, for some reason, at the time when I first started doing this, I thought that there's something in the back of my head about like a character being associated with a food, you know. Um, uh, Unfortunately, the biggest example that I can come up with is Homer Simpson is associated with that pink donut. Um, so, in other words, it's just a direct ripoff. Um, but I had this thought that like sometimes characters are associated with a food, you know, like um, Homer has his donuts, or like Popeye has his spinach, or a third example, and it didn't go anywhere because it doesn't mean anything. It's not like it was just some dumb idea I had in the back of my head, and I thought I might explore it, and I realized there's nothing really to explore. There's no like I don't know. There's no like real meaning to it. Anyway, a guy tries to butt ahead in line, and the donut employee, who I like the design of this guy. Um, but he says, "Sir, you have to wait in line." The guy pulls a gun, says, "Give me all your bread." You mean bread like money, or bread as in donuts? So he caps his ass. See, cap, right in his ass. Um, Guy steals all the money. "You got something to say, ass bag?" And he says, "The donuts are on me." And he takes off. And Hubert's like, "Oh." Hubert's been looking for a job anyway, or else his girlfriend's going to kick him out. So he grabs an application because a position just opened up. They go back to the apartment building. Sophie/Phoebe is waiting there for them, and she says, "Are you high?" And he honks her boob because he's a real cool guy like that. She gets upset, rightly so, and tells him to go fuck himself. And he gets all mad and he'll, "Yeah, well, fuck you, bitch." And he says, "I'll be in Ray's apartment." He slams the door, and she says, "Hey, Ray, don't let him do anything stupid." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." I don't know. I thought that this panel was kind of important because throughout the rest of the story, all she's doing is kind of nagging him. Um, it's like it's this weird thing where um, Hubert is essentially the protagonist of the story, and she keeps like harping on the same stuff, and she's totally right. She's totally within her rights to do all of that and say all of the stuff that she's saying. But since we've been following Hubert around, we're kind of like, man, Sophie's sort of a drag, man. So I wanted to have at least one panel where she was like, where it showed that she did care about him, because I mean they got together in the first place for some reason, right? Um, so anyway, Ray says, "Yeah, yeah, okay." Well, he goes and hangs out in his apartment with Hubert, and they just talk about, you know, more shit, standing naked in front of the abyss, that sort of stuff. And Hubert reads his manifesto or some story that Ray's working on, and he says, "Yeah, but it's kind of a downer, you know." And they talk about the nature of writing and all of that. And he says, "Well, okay." And here's one, you know, the rain's going, the music is playing and everything. He says, "Are we listening to Boz Scaggs?" And that was going to be the end. What was I? What am I? What? Why? What am I doing? The idea was that the story is just going to keep going. It's just we're not privy to whatever that is. Like the story just ends, but you know that these characters are just going to keep going. However, Greg pointed out this is a story that people actually are reading. So if you have like having an end to your story is probably a good idea. Um, and it didn't take a whole lot of convincing because he was totally right. So I tacked on an extra page, kind of sewed it up a little bit, although not much better. Um, And it just kind of it ends with Ray looking at his his writing. Um, I don't know, and that's Hubert and Ray's first appearance. I appreciate you going over to patreon.com/Brubaker and kicking in a buck if you possibly can. And if you can't, go fuck yourselves.